Star Wars Clone Wars Season 7, Episode 6, Deal, No Deal. So this was a pretty decent episode, I'd say. It's definitely the one leading into what I think is going to be like the really entertaining action episode, because of course by the end they get captured. So of course we have our trio of ladies. We have Ahsoka, Trace, and Trace's sister, whose name I still didn't bother to remember, so I'm just going to call her Mary J. Blige because of that jacket she keeps wearing. We end up finding out that they have this really grand scheme going on, and of course it's Trace's sister that has the plan. Trace is like, all right, I have my ship, we can like go out and see space and do this and do that, and it's like, okay, well, I needed a crew, but some things fell through, so now I'm going to utilize my sister and, Ahsoka, who of course she still doesn't trust. So they end up flying up into space. Before that, of course, they have a crazy little run-in with the military, and I think that specific scene and the spice scene really show a lot of Trace's character, because I was like, I don't know if she's not really ready for like the real world. Like, that's very clear, because like Ahsoka's like, hey, this is she specifically was like, this is a military lane, we can't be here, and don't answer this call. Like, it was the same thing over and over, and she was just like, don't tell me what to do, and she was just like answering calls and stuff, and I'm like, well, she just doesn't listen. Like, I know she doesn't know everything about Ahsoka, but if someone's like, hey, this is specifically this thing, if you don't know, it's probably best that you don't question. Like, if it's life or death, especially, I mean, well, they would at least have been arrested. But it's like, if it's a situation like this, and someone's like, hey, I know what this lane is, like, we can't be here, you should probably listen. And she's just like going along, and it's like, hey, just pull up, go up a little higher. And she's just like, don't tell me what to do. And she's answering the call and stuff, and they almost got screwed. But of course, Anakin was like, he knew that Ahsoka was there, so he was like, no, just let him kind of go past. So then, of course, they go through this process. It's like, oh, they go to Kessel and stuff like that, which is really interesting because it does look like it does in Solo, because it was like, oh, it's like this weird tunnel and, the lights and everything. So they go to Kessel, and we end up finding out that this amazing deal that they have is to run spice. Of course, that's an illegal thing for the most part. And of course, that's what ends up happening. So as they're going through, it's like, yep, this deal is with the Pikes. That's terrible. Ahsoka's like, this is what's going to happen. This is a bad idea. Mary J. Blige is like, nope, we need this. We need the money. We got to pay people off. And it's like, well, the Pikes are bad. They'll steal the spice. They'll steal the ship. And that's all Trace heard. It was like, my ship? Like, nobody gets to steal my ship. And I don't know what she was thinking. Like, Ahsoka's plan was bad. Like, even she admitted it after it happened. It was like, well, I didn't have a plan exactly. So, it was more of an ethical debate. But still, to do the action of just, dumping it was a really dumb idea. And it didn't even make sense, because it's like, well, if you dump the spice, and of course this is exactly what they ended up going through. It was like, well, if you dump the spice, then there's literally nothing but the ship that you can use. So she obviously wasn't thinking. She was just freaking out. And then it was just like, fine, now neither of you get what you want. And it's like, well, neither would you in this situation. If you dump the spice, you have nothing. You either go on the run or you pay with your ship, which they probably wouldn't have taken anyway. I doubt the ship was truly worth, 30 credits or 30,000 credits. So it was crazy. I was like, those two scenes, I was just like, I can't be certain. I doubt they'll do this, because it would be like very dramatic and sort of sad. We don't know Trace that well. It would just kind of suck. But I was like, she's the type of person that can easily get herself killed, because she will make decisions solely based on not being able to like experience life. It's like the easiest way I can think to put it. That ship is like her entire existence. It's like, this ship will help me leave Coruscant. She'd never been in hyperspace and stuff like that. And that like blew Ahsoka's mind. Like, well, what have you been doing? It's like, speeders mostly. And it's like, and even her sister was like, now you see why I wanted, someone else to fly, because my sister's literally never been in space. Most likely. I mean, she definitely said hyperspace, but I would assume she's never been in space ever. So it was really interesting. Those two scenes, I was like, I don't think Trace is like the right person for the real world at this point. Like, she made some real dumb decisions. She doesn't listen to people. And in the first case, it was like she just wasn't listening, and was just like, well, we can't do this, we can't do this. Like, just leave, just like shift where we are right now. And then the second time, it was just like, no one's taking my ship. And then she literally got rid of the thing that would have helped her keep the ship. Like, she wasn't even thinking. She was just against the other two people, because they weren't specifically talking about keeping the ship. So she got rid of the one option she had to actually keep the ship. Didn't make any sense. So I was like, okay, she's not really ready for the real world. That's very clear. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. They go through with their plan. Ahsoka uses her powers. It's like, boom, Jedi mind trick. Here's your credits. let us get out of here. Of course, the other person behind, like, the leader was like, well, this is highly unusual, so I'm gonna, check things. Of course, they get busted. They try to take off, tractor beam, so now they're captured at the end. And I'm looking forward to the next episode for sure. I would assume Ahsoka doesn't have her lightsaber on her, or like even like split up, because it doesn't look like she really has any metal components or anything. I was kind of thinking of that in this episode. I was like, okay, they're obviously moving a little bit closer. She uses the Jedi mind trick, and I knew whatever was gonna happen. I was like, this next episode is gonna be like the action episode. They might actually get captured. She might fight back. They'll probably get captured first, because even if they do fight back, they're technically on the ship. So once they get off, it's like there's gonna be who knows how many people on this landing dock with guns. Even if she had a lightsaber, there's not much she can do. I highly doubt Trace and her sister have any real combat skills. So it would just be Ahsoka. Like, we saw Trace fight, but it was just like simple hand-to-hand combat. I don't think she's ever had a blaster or anything like that. So I don't know how it's going to play out. I would assume that they're going to get captured first, and then they kind of figure their way out of it. But it'll be interesting. This episode kind of seemed to mostly just be the flying. It was like a couple of little moments here and there, but for the most part, I felt like the episode kind of just flew by. They had the thing where they talked about like, oh, the Republic wouldn't let them be slaves. They would have stopped that. And Ahsoka's like, yeah, you think they would. So, and of course they got closer and closer, because Ahsoka's just like throwing out all this information. This is a military lane. We can't be here. This, that, she knows all these different random things. And it's just like, how do you know this stuff? So it'll probably come out in the next episode. Like, yeah, I'm a former Jedi, and this is just how things are playing out. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if they're gonna have any of the characters kind of interact, as far as like Anakin or any of the Jedi or clones or anything like that. So it could just be Ahsoka's thing until they end this arc, and then that could lead into how she gets back into the fold. I was thinking that might be the case with this episode, with Anakin realizing like, oh, Ahsoka's on that ship, and so he lets her go. So I don't know if it's possible for them to like really track her, since they naturally just let her go. They didn't like do anything special, unless they just threw it in like, yeah, we threw a tracking little beacon on you, which wouldn't make any sense. They would have to like shoot it from the ship and have it attached. And I mean, technically that would just be a new thing for Star Wars. So I guess it is what it is. Some people like new things, some people don't. It depends on what you add. So we'll see in next week's episode how things really play out, but I would assume they're gonna get captured. They're gonna do kind of the normal thing. They go into something, they screw it up, and then it's like, all right, you have to do this in order to repay your debts, or we can just kill you. So they're going to get a new mission, or they're going to get killed. So they're going to take the new mission, because that's a big part of Star Wars, at least Clone Wars specifically. It's a lot of stuff that happens that way. Whenever something fails, when it's like the illegal gang stuff, it always goes the same route. I guess that's the same for all television and storytelling in general. It's like when you mess with a gang and you screw up, it's either you fight and kill everybody, which I don't think they could do. Like, Ahsoka could probably do it. She could at least take down a bunch of people, but I don't think they could take down, like, all of the Pikes or anything like that. So it's either you fight and kill everybody off, they kill you, which obviously would just end the story, or they threaten to kill you, and then they give you another option to pay back your debt, and then you do that mission, and somehow they'll find something else that, like, pays the debt back, plus it gives them extra money or whatever. That's normally how it works in Star Wars. So I feel like that's where it's really going to go. I'm not sure how many more episodes we should expect. This is only episode 2, so if they're going to do kind of like they did with the last one, it should be about 4 to 5 episodes for Ahsoka's arc, and then maybe it'll go into kind of blending the arcs together. Ahsoka getting back with the clone troopers and running back into Anakin and Obi-Wan. So maybe that's the case. Maybe we only have like 2 more episodes to go. I could easily see this being concluded in the next episode. The first half could be them like accepting the mission and stuff like that. Second half of the episode is them actually doing the mission, and it's all said and done. But I would assume we're gonna get at least two more episodes of Ahsoka's arc, because now they've traveled out to space. They've screwed up. They've been captured. They're gonna do this second mission. They may even bring in new people. I don't know if that's the case, but I gotta be honest, there's like a couple of characters I would love to see. I would assume Hondo's gonna show up at some point, because Hondo that's his thing. He just shows up. So Hondo's probably gonna show up at some point. I wouldn't be surprised. I thought about it in this episode. I was like, it would be hilarious if Hondo showed up at random, because once you start dealing with gangs, I think of Hondo. And the first thing he would do is screw up the fact that she's a Jedi, because he'd be like, oh, it's my favorite Jedi. Like, it's like the first thing he would probably say. So I feel like Hondo's probably going to show up, and then he would like kind of out Ahsoka by accident and just be like, oh, sorry, my bad. So I feel like Hondo might show up, because it's just perfect. Whenever gangs are involved, it just makes sense to throw Hondo in there for some good comedy relief. So I think that would be cool. Other characters I would love to see, because I yeah, he's not dead yet. Cad Bane, I love Cad Bane. I would love to see him in this final season because I think he dies in between Clone Wars and in between like episodes 3 and 4. Because I don't think it's before episode 3. I don't really recall, but I'm pretty sure he's currently alive. I think he has like a comic line story where he dies, but I think that's like during or after episode 3. So he should be alive. We might get to see him. Who knows? But I would love that. Both those characters fit perfectly as far as anything gang related. Hondo is probably more likely just because it's easier to do like the comedy relief. Once Cad Bane shows up, things get like super serious. So I don't know if he'll show up. I prefer to see Cad Bane because he's such a cool character. But either way, I think it should be interesting going into the next couple of episodes. I think it'll be more entertaining to watch as a whole. Like I didn't mind this episode, and I kind of feel like I like the last one more because we'd already had like the big action episode with the clones. Like the first couple of episodes was just like crazy action combat. So I didn't mind the slowdown, and I even mentioned in my last review like I wouldn't be surprised if people didn't like it because it wasn't like high octane action like the past couple episodes have been pretty insane. So going off of the last one, I was like, okay, it's still kind of slow, a little bit faster because of course they're at least traveling. They're going to different places. The chase was fine, in the last episode, but I was like, they're gonna get the robot. I wasn't really concerned. Like it was destroying stuff. They didn't actually have to fight. I'm waiting for like an actual situation where like Ahsoka has to use the Force. She has to out herself. More than just like a little kid seeing her use the Force, something like that. So we'll see what happens. But I would assume it would be really weird if the next episode isn't an action episode, or at least partly action. They have to have some real combat. Like they've been captured. They're not going to be, imprisoned for 30 minutes or, I guess 20 minutes. I think this episode was like 19 minutes or something, which was actually it was surprisingly short. And the last 2 minutes were credits. So it was really like a 17-minute episode. And I was like, oh man, it felt kind of short, but at the same time, it was just like, man, it was just, it was short. It was just like you're flying through it and it was short. But the last episode, I don't know, it felt like there was more depth to it. And this one was just like a lot of the time was spent on little arguments and, Trace making some really poor decisions, just bad decisions kind of all around. But it'll be interesting to see. I'm still looking forward to it. I still enjoyed this episode, but I would say that I think I like the last one a little bit more. And I'm not 100% sure why. I think because this was such a weird middle ground where it was like kind of intense, but not really intense enough because it was like, oh, they could get captured if they stay in this military lane. But at the same time, I knew that wasn't going to happen. Like they just left. It's not going to be like, poof, they run right into Anakin and get arrested and then that's it. I'm like, that would kind of be boring. So I knew that wasn't going to happen. They go through, I didn't know what was going to happen with the spice running thing. I was like, okay, that should be entertaining. And then of course it just got crazy because Trace dumped the spice. So I was like, all right, I don't know if this will happen in the episode because I knew we were close to the end. So I was like, it could get action packed like right at the last minute and then it ends on a cliffhanger. But of course it was just like, they tried the plan, kind of worked, but mostly failed. And then that's where it ends. Like the tractor beam hits them and it's like, boom, they're captured. It's over. So the next one has to be a decent action episode because otherwise it's just them in prison, which would still be boring. Even if it's prison with people that would actually kill them, it just wouldn't make any sense. So I would assume that whatever ends up happening here, we should be getting an action episode next week. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm very curious how it'll play out because I want to see Ahsoka like really fight again, kind of like we saw in the last episode. So I definitely want to see that happen and kind of see what's really going to happen with these characters. Because my main question is, will Trace and her sister actually be relevant to the rest of this season? Like, are they going to be just in these couple episodes? Maybe one of them dies. If anything, it will probably be Trace, admittedly, because she makes some bad decisions. So it just makes me wonder, like, what are they going to do with these two characters, especially with it being obviously the final season of this show? What is their true value to like the entire season? What's really going to happen? Because it could just be, I mentioned with the Bad Batch, they have to come back. That just makes sense. Like the Order 66 stuff, they have to show up again, and they could have Trace and his sister come back because I'm sure that they probably won't kill them, and then it'll be like, crazy situation, crazy you're a Jedi and this and that, but ultimately they become friends. Ahsoka goes off to do whatever, and Trace and her sister go back to 1313, and then maybe somewhere at the end of the series, she was like, hey, I kind of need your help again. So that could easily happen. We'll just have to wait and see. But for now, that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm like, the Bad Batch is automatic. They're like a special set of clones. I know they're not just going to have them in 5 episodes and then that's it. They have to, especially now. They took Echo with them. I'm like, it would just be the craziest thing to not have them in the series. That's like pretty much guaranteed now. They're coming back. So with these two characters, obviously Ahsoka, is super important, but Trace and her sister have to like step up. I guess they have to show how important they can really be to the series. So that's really what I'm waiting for, is that moment where I'm like, okay, now I need to see them later on, or just something. For now, they're still just kind of filler characters. Like Ahsoka is really important, but it's got it. It's only been 2 episodes, but it has already gotten to that point where I'm just like, I have to question it, and I'm just like, I don't feel the importance. I don't. It's a side story. Like, it's Ahsoka's story, and it's important because of what she's doing. But it's literally like everything else I don't care about. It's just Ahsoka. So that's not really great for me, like watching it in the moment, because I'm just like, I don't care about any of these people, and I'm not even 100% sure they're gonna survive. So it's just like, I'm just watching solely for Ahsoka right now. I like Trace and I like her sister. I like the dynamic, like them having their arguments. I actually do find entertaining, especially when you see like the decisions that Trace and her sister make, and like why they make them. So it's interesting to watch, but it's still just like, I don't know if they're super important just yet. So I'm waiting to see, but still thought this was a decent episode, but it wasn't the greatest. I think I would probably say I still enjoyed the last one more, and that might just be because it was Ahsoka's first episode, so it does have like a very special place because we've been waiting for Ahsoka. So I was like, all right, we got Ahsoka, and this one was like, oh, they left, but still kind of a fairly slow paced episode, despite the things that they did and going into this crazy deal and going to Kessel and stuff like that. Still felt like kind of a slow episode. So we'll see what happens with the next one. But I would love to know what you guys thought about this one. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, least favorite parts about it. And I would love to know your thoughts on Trace and her sister. The last one was like, this is great, Ahsoka's back, and that's all that really mattered. But now we're getting into however long this mini arc is going to end up being. And it's like, we need to like these characters. And so far, I think Trace is probably going to get herself killed based on the 2 decisions she made, where she was ignoring everything everybody said, and she made like dumb decisions like, nobody's taking my ship. And like I said, she dumps the spice, and like that's literally, like, it just made no sense. Like, Ahsoka said all this stuff, and it was just like, my ship, and then she dumped the spice, which was like, that just makes it more likely they'll take your ship, and it just didn't even make sense that that's where her mind went. Like, it was just, it was so crazy. It was such a stupid thing to do, and it was just like, how did you come up with that decision? Like, that didn't even make sense, to be like, well, now neither of you, get what you want. I'm repeating myself, but it was really dumb. It was just like, I don't know if she's gonna make it, but we'll see. Like I said, I want to know what you think about Trace and her sister and them as characters, where you think they might be going, if you think they'll have any relevance beyond, this little arc that we have. And of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general, so please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.